This is an easy, no-brainer issue. The hose that comes out of your engine and back into the firewall where your heater is the hose you want to cut in half. And then in the kit there's a T that kind of puts the hose back together and has an outlet spout, and then an adapter from the spout to the hose. Just cut that hose in half and hook that up. Make sure this spout, this is where water will come out when we flush the system, it's connected into your radiator. You don't want all that water, especially if it's rusty, floating down into your wheel hub. That's it. Just make sure it's the right hose. There's one coming out of the firewall going into the water pump. Okay? Yeah. And there's one coming out of the engine going back into the firewall. And then just leave it hooked up like that and running until everything gets warmed up. Go back into the car, turn the heater on, and when your heater's blowing hot air, you're ready to flush the system. So turn the hose on full blast when it's heated up, and everything will flush out. And that outlet tube right there. Seems pretty warm, so bear with me. Okay, the heater's blowing hot air, so you're going to go back to the hose gizmo. Turn that on full blast. And you can do this process 100 times if you want. To see how the water coming out of there is kind of cruddy. This is like my 8th time doing this, so it's not as bad as it was. But it was dark brown because of all the rust that was in the old radiator, which I replaced the old radiator with a brand new one. And just let it flush out with the engine running. Basically until you see clean water coming out. Nothing else but clean water. If you still have antifreeze in there, it's going to be probably green. And just let it go for a few minutes. The water should be a little bit warm, not burning hot. And you can turn the hose back off and leave the car running. And come back in a couple minutes and turn the hose back on full blast. You want a little bit of pressure in there. You can turn the car off and let any dirt and debris and rust or anything else settle at the bottom for a couple minutes. Or for as long as you want. And just let it all settle down, then you're going to start the engine again. Let it warm back up again and flush it out again. You want the heater on so everything gets flushed out through the heater core. And you want it warmed all the way up. And this is an easy, no-brainer, no muscle issue that anybody can do. The only tools you're going to need for this is something to cut this hose. Try to make a clean cut when you cut it, and something to tighten those hose clamps down. The T that you put inside the hose is going to just stay there. It has a cap on it, and it just remains there, so if you ever want to flush it out again, it's there. And this comes out, of course, and you put your radiator cap back on. The drainage tube, the drainage outlet, they put in a really bad place on this car, but it's right down there on the driver's side. And sometimes, I don't know if you can see it, but sometimes you gotta feel around for it and just turn that counterclockwise once the car is heated back down, and that'll drain. You can drain out all the water that's now in the engine and the radiator, and then you're going to fill it up with new antifreeze and top it off, and you'll be good to go, man. You can get an indication of how much rust was in my system before I changed the radiator just by looking at this radiator cap. It was pretty bad. I mean, it was coming out in chunks. The radiator was toast, and eventually a hole went through it from the rust and came out of it, and it wouldn't hold any water. It was overheating, and so I just needed a new radiator. And now I'm still flushing it. I ran nothing but water in it for a couple days, just to loosen up any last debris that was remaining in the engine, and now we're flushing it out again. Before that, I was flushing out the radiator like once a week, the old one, because I was trying to get the rust out of there, but it was a hopeless case. The more I would flush it out, the more rust was coming out, and it just got to the point where the radiator said, "To hell with it, I'm giving up," and that was it. I'll make one last final part of this video and we'll be done with it. We're gonna flush it out again just for good measure. Again, let it warm back up and get the heater on full blast. And it's running real clean now. Yeah, that there will probably leak a little bit, don't worry about it. Go back to the hose. There's no more dirt or rust in there, so we're safe. Turn it off. Go back to the car. Turn it off. Hopefully I can do this with one hand. There might be a little pressure, be careful with that. Take this connector off. It's a little bit hot too. And put this cap back on. It comes supplied with everything. Make sure there's no leaks. Tighten it. And yes, that because there's not a whole lot of pressure in this line, that is enough to be permanent in there. Take that off. Leave the radiator cap on as we go to drain it, and now we're going to drain it. I don't know who the son of a bitch is that designed this drainage plug on this car. He probably makes $500,000 a year or more just to make your life miserable. It is absolutely impossible to get your hand all the way down there and turn that plug without taking things apart. And I guess they expect you to take the whole wheel well out just to get to it, but I'm not going to go through all that. So I took this line off. This is a transmission cooling line that goes in and out of the radiator. So now I got transmission fluid and draining out of there. I just wanted pure water. So I'm gonna have to check my transmission fluid when I get done here. Top that off too. I'd like to flush this out one last time, but I don't want to connect everything up and then disconnect it again. Do it again. I think I did it enough times, but I'm a little bit paranoid about all that rust that was in there. So once we get the plug back in, we'll fill back up with antifreeze and coolant, and top it off with water, and that'll be that. Use straight antifreeze, not the 50-50 crap. And put a gallon in, turn the engine on, and let it run like that with straight antifreeze, just to get it warmed up. Make sure your drain plug is tight. If you had to take the transmission line out, which you will have to if you have a 97 Chevy Silverado. Make sure to check your transmission fluid after the car warms up. And the dipstick can be found right there in the back. We're going to top this off with water. If you buy a 50-50 antifreeze, you're going to have to buy 2 gallons. If you buy straight antifreeze, you just have to buy 1 gallon and fill the rest with water. And it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a scam. So you'll wind up paying like $30 for 50-50. And you just pay $20 for 100% strength. Turn that hose down a little bit. And as always, check for leaks. And one last check, make sure everything's tight. And again, let it heat back up on top. This is still too much pressure here. I'm gonna turn it down a little more. Yeah, this is getting stupid. I get hung up on little stupid shit. Like that drain plug, man. I'd really like to come face to face with that engineer. He turned a 10-minute job into 45 minutes. Still too much. I just need a trickle of water. Jesus. That probably won't be enough. Alright, once you get this topped up, don't forget to put the radiator cap bag on. There's still too much pressure. And as that's settled in, go ahead and split the driveway down. That's the top right. Should be tapped up. Up in there, bubbles come out. Get the air out of there. And keep letting it warm up. Top it off one more time. Keep the engine running. And you're done, man. Take care.